That is all about here, the weekly highlights of Arakan.
Regime steps up airstrikes across Arakan State with jet squadrons. Regime reinforces Kyaukphyu front, deploys troops near battalions and headquarters. Monsoon threat worsens shelter crisis for thousands of IDPs in Thandwe. Shortage of doctors deepens healthcare crisis in Arakan State. DLEPS fails to apprehend Pauktaw child rape suspect after nearly 2 months. Textbook prices surge ahead of school season in Arakan State.
In Arakan, intense fighting between the Myanmar military and the Arakan army has been ongoing for over a year. From October 6th to 12th of 2025, we will be bringing you notable updates from Arakan.
Regime steps up airstrikes across Arakan State with jet squadrons. Despite its recent invitation for peace talks with ethnic armed groups and People's Defense Forces, the regime has continued conducting sustained airstrikes using jet squadrons, marking a clear escalation in its aerial warfare campaign. Around 2 p.m. on the 7th of May, the regime deployed 8 aircraft to carry out an intensive 90-minute bombing raid over the mountain ranges near Kyaukphyu and Pauktaw village in Monroe Township, leaving local residents in a state of heightened fear. The regime reportedly launched another air raid near the mountain ranges of Pauktaw Township at approximately 10 p.m. the same night. According to local sources, the operation involved 3 to 4 jet fighters along with a Y-12 aircraft, which circled the area and dropped bombs over an extended period. The surge in airstrikes across Arakan State has triggered widespread panic among civilians, with many fearing that further attacks may follow. On May 6, the regime also used 2 jet fighters to bomb the vicinity of the former Light Infantry Battalion 563 site in Pauktaw Township. Military observers note that as the regime increasingly relies on air power as its primary offensive tool, aerial attacks are likely to expand further across the country, including Arakan State. In a recent interview with a diplomat, the chief of Arakan State stated that as long as the regime continues to bomb civilians, there can be no progress in the peace process. Regime reinforces Kyaukphyu front, deploys troops near battalions and headquarters. Regime forces are reportedly deploying large reinforcements to Kyaukphyu Township, where active fighting continues, and have stationed troops around several battalions and military headquarters. The regime has been using both air and sea routes to strengthen its presence. A person familiar with the ground situation said that reinforcements have been deployed around the Nyawadi Naval Base, No. 32 Police Battalion, and areas near the Onshore Gas Terminal, OGT. To transport personnel, weapons, and military equipment to the Kyaukphyu front, the military is using naval vessels as well as commercial passenger aircraft. Until early May, the regime showed limited offense activity and even abandoned some previously controlled areas. Instead, it appears to be focusing on reinforcing defensive positions and strengthening rear bases. Military observers assess that although only occasional small arms fire is currently heard in Kyaukphyu, the troop buildup and mutual monitoring by both sides suggests that a major battle could break out in the near future. Monsoon threat worsens shelter crisis for thousands of IDPs in Thandwe. More than 3,700 internally displaced persons in Thandwe Township, Arakan State, who are currently sheltering in forests and mountainous areas, are in urgent need of assistance to secure safe housing, according to aid workers. Aid workers assisting displaced residents said, the approaching monsoon season could create severe hardships for IDPs who remain without adequate shelter. The displacement residents were previously taking refuge in schools and monasteries, but were forced to move into nearby forests due to the regime's continued airstrikes targeting civilian areas, including towns, villages, and religious buildings. Local residents said many IDPs have built temporary huts through collective efforts, but a shortage of roofing materials has left them vulnerable to harsh weather conditions. Although the Arakan Army took full control of Thandwe Township on the 5th of September 2024, many residents remain unable to return home due to ongoing regime airstrikes and worsening socio-economic hardships. Shortage of doctors deepens healthcare crisis in Arakan State. Residents in areas controlled by the Arakan Army are facing worsening healthcare crisis due to a severe shortage of doctors, compounded by ongoing trade blockades and economic restrictions imposed by the regime. In Arakan State, only 3 to 4 specialists are currently available to provide obstetric and gynecological care, creating serious challenges for women, particularly expectant mothers. Observers say at least 1 such specialist is needed in every township. With road and trade routes blocked, the cost of medicine has surged alongside rising commodity prices, further limiting access to healthcare. Frequent airstrikes targeting civilian infrastructure, including hospitals and clinics, have made it even harder to maintain healthcare services. On the 10th of December 2025, a regime airstrike on Ra'u Public Hospital killed at least 33 people and injured nearly 80 others, while largely destroying the facility. Despite these challenges, the Arakan Army and the United League of Arakan have begun efforts to strengthen the health sector in areas under their control, including plans to open a medical school and nursing training programs. DLEPS fails to apprehend Pauktaw child rape suspect after nearly 2 months. Local residents report that the Department of Law Enforcement and Public Security, DLEPS, under the United League of Arakan, has yet to apprehend a suspect in a child rape case that occurred nearly 2 months ago in Pauktaw Township, Arakan State, an area under the control of the Arakan Army. The suspect is identified as Utran Aungshe, 45, from Thandwe village in Pauktaw Township. Although he was initially captured the day after the crime, he escaped due to the negligence of DLEPS and remains at large. The incident occurred on the evening of March 3rd after 4 p.m. when an 8-year-old girl from Thandwe village, Lifyonka Island in Pauktaw Township, was sexually assaulted by Utran Aungshe. According to the details of the event, the young victim had accompanied her aunt to the outskirts of the village earlier that evening, but returned alone without her aunt's knowledge. On the path between Pyeongchau and Thandwe villages, she encountered Utran Aungshe, who then raped her. Villagers discovered the crime in progress, causing the suspect to flee. Local residents stated that the perpetrator had been working as a hired hand on a fishing boat in Pyeongchau village, Pauktaw Township. Family members of the victim are demanding the immediate arrest of the perpetrator and effective action to ensure justice is served. Textbook prices surge ahead of school season in Arakan State. As the school season approaches, textbook prices in townships controlled by the Arakan Army in Arakan State have risen sharply, creating additional challenges for children from displaced families and low-income households. According to booksellers, a set of kindergarten textbooks is currently priced at around 25,000 jets. Prices for grades 1 to 3 are approximately 35,000 jets per set, while grade 4 to 8 costs about 40,000 jets. Textbooks for grades 7 to 9 are being sold for 50,000 jets, and high school sets for grade 10 to 12 have reached as high as 70,000 jets. Booksellers noted that prices have increased significantly compared to previous years, while shortages are also becoming more severe. High school textbooks, in particular, are difficult to obtain, and retailers face challenges restocking due to high procurement costs. While some school supplies can be imported from India, textbooks must be sourced from mainland Myanmar. However, the suspension of trade along the Saw Road has made transportation and procurement extremely difficult. The rising cost of textbooks, combined with daily economic hardships, has left displaced families and low-income households deeply concerned about their children's education. Parents also reported that prices of notebooks, pens, pencils, and other school supplies are increasing, adding further financial strain. Some families are seeking second-hand textbooks, but even used books are now being sold at nearly the same price as the new ones. These were the main highlights of the past week in Arakan. This program is presented every Tuesday, so please stay tuned. May all people of Arakan and the world stay healthy and safe.